There are stories about a certain kind of hitchhiker. They only ever appear at night on quiet roads, seeming to flicker into existence on the very edge of headlights, never carrying a sign, always with an expression of deep despondency on their face. Swathed in a heavy coat and long pants, usually in gloves. If you stop, they will seem cordial enough, polite, but hardly chatty. They will assure you that the next town or city along your route will be a fine spot to leave them. Normal enough, unless you try killing them. They die easily enough, but look underneath their clothes and you will see that their skin is marred in lines of scars, forming repeating patterns that are unsettling to look at. And even more unsettling in the context of their skin, they have no wallets, no identification. If you slice their belly open, however, they're different inside. There's no blood, no muscle, only a hollow cavity containing a single object. The object varies. Examples include a single coin, heavy and golden engraved with runes nobody could ever decipher. Diamond gem with fractal edges that slice bare flesh to ribbons. A small vase, quite unbreakable, that smells of the ocean and is always damp. Once you possess a hitchhiker's object, you'll find yourself driving the quiet roads at night. You'll never mean to, but somehow you just will. The lore of possessing a second one will hum quietly in your head. You'll strain to catch a sight of a figure appearing in your headlights. Try to resist the impulse to stop, and sometimes you might, but sometimes you won't. You'll try telling yourself that this is just a normal person on an adventure, someone who ran out of petrol. The logical part of your brain will scream at what you're doing. You'll smile and nod, and they'll get into your car, and you'll slowly, casually reach under the seat, in your pocket, or cross to the glove box.
Closed season, it's the pits. I run a small hotel. I used to run it with my wife, but she left me because of her drinking. She did not go far. I see her sometimes in the local bar, sometimes sitting alone, hunched over a bottle, sometimes with her arm around a stranger. It hurts seeing her like that, but there's nothing that I can do. Believe me, I tried. Now all I can do is try and keep busy and not think. Busy is easy during the summer. This is a tourist town. We are surrounded by a verdant forest, overlooked by awe-inspiring mountains. The stresses of the hustle and bustle of the city are eased away by the beauty and serenity that greets you in every direction you look. There are thousands of visitors here over the summer, and I am always fully booked and run off my feet. Come autumn though, and the flow of tourists slows to a trickle. The first bite of cold winds swirling through the streets encourages any left to pack up and leave. Soon after, the snow comes, and the road into the town becomes impassable until next spring. Nature rules here, as she once did across whole continents. We cannot argue, just make sure we are stocked up on the essential supplies, our food, water, beer, and gasoline for the generators. I have a generator around the side of the hotel. It's relatively new and reliable. I finish thoroughly cleaning and checking it before I lock up the hotel for the winter. The summer, a memory I try and make the most out of the transformed town. On an early December day, I stand in the street outside my hotel just as it is going dark and listen to the near silence. There are 20 of us who see out the winter, and everyone else is indoors. There is no traffic on the road. The only sound I can hear is my generator purring efficiently and the birds settling down to nest for the night. I try and savor the tranquility while it lasts. I breathe deep and take in the crisp, clean air. It's in the air that there is a first inkling. There's a smell, slight at first, So slight you might think you were imagining it, but then it hits you. The smell of meat gone bad. Then there is a murmuring. Voices approaching. My fellow residents will be aware of this as well. The lights in their homes click off one by one, leaving each in darkness behind drawn curtains. Only the streetlights remain. The birds have fallen silent. My heart is beating faster by now. It is cold outside, but colder deep within me. I will never get used to the fear that comes with this moment, or the terror that will linger for the months to come. The first of them appear. There are holes in their clothes through which you can see the holes in their skin, the bones below. There is an urgency to their shuffling gait, and soon they are congregating around the streetlights. Their faces turned up to them, their hands reaching out. I step silently as I can back into the hotel and extinguish the lights inside. I walk along now dark corridors and swing open the doors to the largest room in the hotel, go inside and flick a switch. I did not close the front door of the hotel behind me, and within minutes I can smell them, hear their murmuring. I make my way to the far end of the room, wait by the smaller door there, holding it open, ready to flee. They file in, begin to fill the room until there are hundreds or more, all crammed in. They stand gazing upwards, hands raised in a kind of reverie. Some sway, some jerk, and some twitch. Their object of their attention, the thing that has drawn them there, the disco ball, in the center of the bathroom ceiling. It spins, casting out glittering light, bathing the room in speckles of red, green, blue, and silver. They are transfixed. I make my exit, hurrying up to the second floor, which I have once again converted for the winter months into a compound. I have supplies, chemical toilets, doors reinforced of steel, bolted firm. They come every winter, and they stay, as long as the generator keeps going and the disco ball keeps spinning. Why do we put up with it? Why do we stay? Speaking for myself, for my wife, for the hope that she will come back to me, and because, in early March, a day will come when I can see the snow melting. I will crack open my window and feel the fresh air on my face. I will hear the birds singing again. It's then that I know that it's safe to leave my second floor compound. I walk down through the hotel. There's usually a little damage. Scrape marks on the walls. These can be painted over, no problem. Cracked window panes, easy to replace. I head into the ballroom, look through the open doors. The disco ball is still. The generator has to run out of fuel, and the room is empty. They have left us until next winter. I go to get my long broom and begin to sweep the ballroom. I swept it all up and put it in a huddle. When in the next few weeks, I drove down to the neighboring town, and after, I have loaded up on fresh supplies for the preparing of the first guests of the year, I will pay a visit to the pawn shop and empty out my huddle and cash in my findings. The dented coins, the rings, pendants, bracelets, and gold teeth, the things they left behind as an offering in return for a winter of sparkling light.
Jordan Group, the author of the story, has just released his latest book called Beneath the Asylum. Check it out. Link in the description below. The Google algorithm has been acting up lately. It has been giving me very strange recommendations. Usually it's right on the money, and sometimes predicts things that I want before I have even mentioned them out loud. And I wonder how it knows. Is it reading my mind? Or does it just know me better than myself? For instance, recently I was thinking about replacing my laptop. The old one was starting to malfunction and was slowing down to the point of being irritating. Surely enough, ads for laptops started appearing at the side of my browser window when I visited various websites, even though I didn't mention the problem to anyone and haven't even said out loud that the old laptop was bothering me. Again and again, ads began to show up. that catered to my very exact needs. Getting more and more creepily specific, a hole ripped suddenly in my underwear, and an ad for underwear popped up on my Google phone. I broke a coffee mug, and ads for coffee mugs started to show up. I didn't even have to think about stuff. After a while, it popped up on my feed before I even knew I wanted it. I tried not to give in to these temptations, but I couldn't help myself. The ads were too perfect. It was everything I ever needed. At the click of a button, it didn't help that I had a shopping addiction. Once upon a time, this brought it all back. Bills began to pile up as my online shopping became a real problem for my wife and I. Financially, I started seeing looks of disgust and annoyance on her face when she talked to me, and I realized I was ruining our marriage with my constant need for these perfect new things, which were clearly meant so specifically just for me. But to be honest, it wasn't just that. There were problems long before that. The buying habit was just an escape. I had begun to realize, still, I couldn't let her take that from me. She wanted to cut out my credit card and wanted to cancel it, but I told her no. Then, very soon after that, new ads started to appear. When I was browsing on the laptop, ads for shovels, for lye, for dark clothing and flashlights, for spades, pickaxes, grass seed. Strange, I thought at first, since we didn't even live in a house with a backyard. Why was it making such odd recommendations? All of a sudden, looking at the laptop more closely, I realized why the algorithm had my desires wrong. Suddenly, I wasn't synced to my Google account. The laptop was logged into my wife's profile, but why would she want to buy those items? Gardening tools don't make a lot of sense when you don't have a garden, or even a yard. I opened up the history tab, going back and seeing what she had been looking at. Strangely, the last 24 hours were wiped blank. She was still out at the grocery store, so I pulled up the bank statements and her credit card account, overwhelmed with a desire to find out the truth. Like an itch in my mind, I couldn't help but scratch when I logged into my Google account and tried to follow the money, as they always say in movies. I couldn't help but notice the new ads dominating the borders on my computer screen. Learn self-defense. Now, Meadow Valley Karate School. Currently accepting new students. Put on these brand new Nike running shoes and get outside. Go. And then, finally, Bob's Gun Store. You can't put a price on safety. That last one was actually nearby. And so I decided to quit browsing the internet and just get out of the house. After all, the only thing I could find in our bank and credit card history was a big cash withdrawal the day prior. It hadn't been me. Only Christine could have taken the money out. But why? Part of me wasn't surprised when I saw her car parked outside of the gun store. She was so transfixed by her new purchase that she'd even notice me as I drove past. Gawking at her, she was holding a large pistol in her hand and stroking it thoughtfully. Christine had always said she hated guns. I guess that may be that she had changed her mind. I drove for a long time after that, more afraid than I have ever felt in my life. Terrified of the woman I had married. A couple of hours outside of the city, my phone started to ring. I pulled over to the gravel shoulder and fished the Google Pixel phone out of my pocket with shaking hands, looking at the screen. It was a video call from Christine. She was obviously wondering where I was. Swiping on the screen, I saw her face appear. Seeing it made me feel like I had been wrong about everything, like it had all been a big mistake. She could never do anything to hurt me. Hey, where are you? Are you driving? I asked her. Seeing the background of her video call, she looked to be on a countryside road somewhere. Yeah, of course. I was worried sick about you. I pulled up your GPS data on your phone because you didn't come home for dinner. Where are you? Of course. I had forgotten about that. She knew my password and could track my phone. Tell him to say where he is. A man's voice said in the background, "Stay where you are. I'm coming to get you." She was coming to get me, all right. Christine. Whose voice was that? Call suddenly cut out, as her stunned face seemed unable to come up with a response to my question. I'm browsing my phone now, looking for a motel where I could spend the night. The promoted ones that keep popping up are for places in Mexico. I think maybe I should listen to Google this time.
Into the forest. Today, I wake. Not as the person I was before. The flickers of myself rose away and dimmed, leaving ashen remnants. Part of me will remember who I was, and that part is likely to imagine myself before, down to the smallest insecurity. But it knows. I know. It can never be recreated. Today, I am anew. A haunting, broken soul, forged and tempered in the darkest pits of the human imagination. I see flashes of what I used to be, before this nightmare. Desperate, scared, even delusional to a degree. In the flashes, I always see myself running, be it emotionally or physically, from an entity much more consuming than any soul could hope to bear. An entity composed not just of fear, but of despair. I spent days, weeks, maybe months running from it. I don't want to know how long it spent hunting me. The entity had no name. It had no birth, no motive, no story. The only thing I believed, that I knew, was that it consumed. I looked into religion, cults, the paranormal, the perverse, even the unversed. This evil. It was its own. I can't believe it to have a soul. You cannot face something like this. Its presence crushes hope, destroys life, overrides any thoughts, ambitions, dreams, facts, memories, beliefs, everything. In its presence, you are fear. You are the loosening grip before the fall, the desperate, pleading breath for air at the bottom of the ocean. Maybe it was my persistence to maintain my sanity. Maybe my hope for relief. Or maybe just being toyed with. But I managed to elude that evil at every turn. The darkness wouldn't take me just yet. It needed me weakened, broken, unable to fight. It followed me for so long, I lost track of where I was going. Places blurred, faces seemed the same everywhere, until I eventually stopped seeing either at all. One night it chased me into a forest. I saw the clouds overhead obscuring the moonlight. As I made my way through, I couldn't feel the evil following. It seemed to have relented, at long last. For the first time in days, weeks, months maybe, I had hope. At this point, I don't think I need to express just how ironic those blissful moments were. As I navigated through the darkness, I stumbled upon what appeared to be a mangled tree, void of life. Attached to it, just at eye level, was a note. Don't look, or it will take you. My heart began thudding violently. The forest began pulsating. The air itself had a heartbeat. I'll never know. I took off. Running, sprinting, fighting the panic so dangerously close to overtaking me. As I moved, the trees began meshing together, forming an impenetrable wall, forcing me to run the only direction I could. I kept thinking I saw something just beyond the tree line. I kept trying to convince myself I was wrong. As I finally made it through the trees into a clearing, I staggered, trying to catch my breath. The pulsating began to feel quieter, until I looked ahead. There was a small building, an old locker room by the looks of things, abandoned and forgotten. After clearing my head, I moved inside, following what appeared to be a maze of decaying tiles and streaks of blackness. I eventually turned a corner and entered a small room, and just as before, another note was waiting for me. No, 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 no. I could feel the walls collapse. I could see the blackness enveloping the room. The black streaks changed shape, writing no, no, no. I couldn't think, or feel, or breathe. My body took off, leaving some part of me behind. As I was about to run back into the forest, I turned back. There he was. There it was. It was as if my heart stopped. We saw each other, it advancing towards me. The world around me grew fuzzy, and all I could hear was this scream. It was as if whoever's screaming was having their voice ripped out. I'm terrified to think that it may have been my voice. It had to be his. Just as I felt myself start to regain control, it appeared right in front of me. I could feel it staring at me, waiting for a move so it could attack. I heard the words, no, 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 coming this time from myself. And just as I started screaming mindlessly, I felt him grab me. Today I woke, not as the person I was before. I can no longer speak, but I still hear it. I can no longer see, but I still see him. I can no longer think. I can no longer feel. I can only follow. I can only take.
If at first you don't succeed, my chamber is all I have ever known. Regal pillars, a high ceiling, a single door. I sit here, bound to my throne, waiting for the door to open, waiting for him. I do not know how many times I have been here. I lost count long, long ago. But I remember when he first came. He was weak, slow, reckless. I killed him easily, but I could not savor victory. One moment, I stood over his broken body. The next, I sat, once again, frozen in my throne. My body was no longer mine. Even my sight was locked, my eyes fixed upon the door, waiting. I do not know how much time passed until my door next opened. I only know that when he sets foot into my chamber, I am freed. My body roars to life, and I rage against him. My nemesis. I break him, crush him, burn him, split him, over and over again. And then I am imprisoned in my own body, forced to wait. I never know when he will open my door next. Sometimes mere moments pass between his arrivals. Once, they stopped. It felt like years. Immeasurable time spent trapped, unfeeling, unmoving. Nothing but thought. I wished oblivion would take me, but my mind never faded. I knew every moment an eternity spent yearning for him to open my door and grant me even a second of freedom. Just when despair set in, and I believed the door would never open again, he came. I tried not to fight. I did not rush to meet him. I tried to speak, to plead with him, but no sound emerged. I tried to spare him, anything to avoid the hell of my throne. But he attacked all the same, and he had grown stronger. His sword slashed at my skin. His arrows pierced my flesh. The agony of numbness was replaced with new torment. He meant to kill me, and I was afraid. I did not want to die, so I broke him again, and we continued. His visits are frequent now. I roar at the sight of him. I bear down upon with all my might, and each time I kill him. But with each death he learns. Each battle is longer than the last. He knows when to dance out of my reach, when to hide behind pillars, when to shield himself, and when to strike. When he last faced me, he brought me to the brink of death. But his haste was his downfall. He raised his sword for the killing blow, thinking me vulnerable. He was wrong. But he will not make that mistake again. He will never relent. But I will fight, because I am afraid of what will happen when he finally kills me. Perhaps I will be freed, or perhaps I will be thrust into eternal numbness, forever trapped, unfeeling, unmoving, but alive, denied even the respite of battle. A hell even worse than this one. I am afraid, because I know that soon he will make no mistakes, that he will kill me. But I will not die easily. So I sit here, on my throne, and I wait for the door to open.
Early last year, I lost my job. I had been there over 5 years, always outperforming everyone, but new management had different ideas for going into the future and let me go. I was beyond done working with people, doing the everyday commute to and from work. Doing face-to-face sales just burnt me out on working with people, so I decided to pursue working from home. I figured since I already had a good gaming setup, mic, and everything else, that some sort of online sales would fit me best. After many weeks of applying and getting nowhere, I saw an ad for a remote personal assistant. The pay was well more than I had ever made. The only requirements were a clean legal background and a valid state driver's license or ID. I applied, thinking it would just end up nowhere like all the rest prior. People with only one job of experience in minimum wage don't usually get jobs that pay all that well. Not even an hour later, I get a text on my cell phone saying I was accepted for the position. The only responsibilities that were listed were receive and transfer money to our US clients. And to start, all I had to do was reply with accept. I was a little hesitant and did some research. They never listed a company name, info, or anything. I found some pages online about scams doing this to take your bank information. In my case, I'm broke and I have nothing, so they can't take anything from me. So what's there to lose, right? I replied, accept. The next day, I received a text with a tracking number and a message attached saying, await further instructions. Okay, that's a little weird, seeing as I never sent them my address. Hell, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. 2 days go by, and a package ends up on my doorstep. And I open it up to find a check written for $25,000 written to me. No way I was just going to cash that without any sort of guidance. I was expecting them to give me some sort of training or course on what to do on it as soon as it arrived, but got nothing. Days go by, and still nothing. Until about 9 days later, I finally got another text. It told me to keep $5,000 of it, and then detailed instructions on how to transfer it to their client. I will not share any of their information of the client for my own safety. I have been doing this job for a few months at this point. I've made dozens of transfers, some being much larger than others. The average amount will be between $25,000 to $45,000, always having $5,000 attached. One in particular was $105,000. This is one that really got me more on my feet about the business more than I already had been. I had never even seen that much money before. I continued doing the normal transfer as any other time, only to be wanting to find out who the hell I'm working for. No information about them exists online. I tried texting that last number to send me the tracking number, seeing as it's a new number every time I get a new package, about just wanting more info on the company. As you would have guessed, I got no reply. The only information I had to go off of was the name of the persons being transferred and their state. It was always a very generic name on the transfers, something like James Wall. This is not an actual name, but a reference as to show how common it was. So, searching for Facebook for them was basically pointless because hundreds of people in that state and city had that same name. While doing research, something did strike me though. Upon searching online, the very same day I was told to transfer the money. There was a news article of a homicide later that day of a man in the same city as the one I was transferred to. Now, I couldn't tell you why this interested me. Maybe it's just years of exposure on murder mystery TV shows. Again, I must tell you that for my safety, I am not going to provide specific details about this man. But the article did clarify that he was a man of a higher class, so to speak. This really provides nothing beneficial, as I just thought I would mention it. This led me to an idea that has changed my thoughts on my job ever since. I keep records of all the transfers I do, so I decided to do something similar to prior findings. I searched the date of the transaction and then either a homicide, suicide, or other death in that state or city during the time frame. I almost went into shock to find that everyone lines up with someone being murdered or found dead. Every single one. There was one odd one, though, that I didn't think matched. It was the one that correlated with the $105,000 check. The description of the person on the article was very insignificant. No job, lower class, average younger adult. Nothing that would strike me as them needing to pay so much for this person. Even the ones that were only $25,000 were very high-class people. I send texts to every single number that has been texting me saying that I am leaving the company, just trying to get the hell out without making it a big deal. Maybe if I just make it seem like I found a new job, that they will think nothing of it. Not some time after, I received a text. It was another tracking number. There was no way I was doing this anymore. I ignored it. A few days later, the check comes. This one is a big one, $100,000, almost the same amount as the other large one. I put it in a drawer and blocked all the numbers that had ever texted me. If I don't cash the check, they can't hold me responsible, right? But not even a day after I received another text. This one was different. It read, "Give the whole amount to at this location." It was in my city. Not only did they not include my usual keep $5,000, but they wanted me to meet this person face to face? No. God, no. I never cashed that check. A few weeks go by of silence. No text, packages, or anything else. I was just getting over it and ready to start fresh again, when finally, it happens. I get another text. It's a tracking number. Unfortunately for me, I was low on money at this time. Getting used to well over $5,000 a month is very different for a person not coming from a wealthy family like myself. I had rented a nice apartment and was paying very large amounts for things I shouldn't have. DoorDash really adds up when you get it 3 times a day, so my lifestyle adapted to those checks and the money ran out very fast. I decided if this is the usual transfer, I will continue doing it. Upon receiving the text following the check, this one told me to keep $10,000. I guess you could say call it a raise for staying in the company. It's the only thing that comes to mind. An idea did pop up in my head though that disturbs me. The check that I never cashed. Why the hell did they want me to do it in person? Why was my usual $5,000 not included in it? All this never sat right with me, and then it came. That money. It was for them to end my life. No need to get a middleman to cash it if I was going to be the one doing that part myself. That's what they pay. And that's the price for when one of us wants to leave. To even think that for an instant, one of these people who did this were in my city and were going to be after me. It scares me in ways I could never imagine. I never want to be in that situation again. I live every day only thinking the worst of what could come from all of this. What would be worse? Being found to be involved in some sort of ring involved in murders? Or being dealt with by those very same people? I live every day to the fullest, as if it was my last. I get paid a lot more now, and I handle many more transfers a month. The last 2 months, I've made over $55,000 a month. At the beginning of this year, they sent me a full-on spreadsheet on how to write off my taxes. It was approved, and everything went fine. So I guess that's one less thing to worry about.
The GPS tracker brought me to the edge of a forest off Route 65. Only idiots steal bikes, so I had expected the thief that had stolen mine to be some inbred redneck in a trailer park. I figured that could still have been the case, and maybe the guy had ditched the bike when he saw it had a GPS locator. Blaring his horn a few times as a goodbye, the trucker that had dropped me off pulled back into the highway and was gone. The GPS screen I held said my bike was a few hundred feet into the forest, but as I stared at the oak and elm trees in front of me, I started regretting coming alone. I should have called a few of the citizens from my club to tag along, but it was too late for that now, so I hopped the guardrail and entered the forest. Despite the fact that I was wearing my jacket and it was the middle of spring, it felt cold. The crescent moon barely provided any light. I pulled out my cell phone and used the flashlight to see, but I still stumbled over branches and roots every once in a while. When there was less than 100 feet between me and my bike, the air grew humid and started to fester with the smell of rotting fish. There was no breeze, but the tree branches creaked every few seconds. It was as if all the trees were alive, and they were breathing their stinking breath into my face. As I continued on, my heart started to beat a lot faster, and I saw something that almost made me turn back. Strung up by their own intestines were dozens of dead animals. But who or whatever had strung them up hadn't just cut out the intestines and tied them around the animals' necks. Instead, the entire animal had been flipped inside out. Apparently, their whole bodies had been pushed up through their mouths, and then the intestines were tied around the trees. Some of the hunks of flesh were the size of dogs, others the size of possums, but it was hard to verify what any of the creatures actually were. Some of them were fresh, still dripping red blood and brown bile. Others were old. Any liquid that had stayed on the flesh was now black and dry. As I discovered the hanging animals, the humidity got thicker, and the sound of the creaking tree branches sped up a little as if the trees were excited that I had discovered their secret. I almost turned back at the sight of the malevolent menagerie, and the other things that stopped me were the distant rev of my bike's engine. It lasted about 5 seconds before stopping. A few seconds later, it sounded off again, and again lasted about 5 seconds. The GPS tracker indicated the bike was stationary. I wanted to call the cops, but when I looked at my phone, it said I had no bars.
I picked up a baseball bat-sized stick, positioning it so that I could hold it and my phone. I swallowed hard and pushed deeper, avoiding the dangling, dripping bodies as I went. I noticed there weren't many flies. I wondered if even they were too afraid to come close. The closer I got to my bike, the less I needed the GPS, so I put it in my jacket pocket. When I was less than 30 feet away, I could also hear a squishing sound accompanying the revving engine. I slowed my steps to try and be as quiet as I could, and my mind raced with what I would do when I was confronting the thief. If they were crazy enough to string up dozens of animals by their guts, they were absolutely crazy enough to kill me. My only option was to take them by surprise with a hard blow to the back of the head. I made it to the clearing where my bike was laying on the ground and froze. But I didn't freeze because I was caught. I froze because the thief wasn't what I had expected. The thief was facing me, but it didn't seem to care I was there. The thief was almost human, but nothing was quite right. It had arms and legs, but they were too thin. Knees and elbows were too circular. Its fingers were long and slender as well. Its head had relatively normal features, but its mouth had no lips. Just 2 rows of blunt teeth, dappled with brown and black dots. Its bulging eyes were focused on a squirming cat that it was holding down with one hand next to my bike's rear wheel. The creature's other hand was on the throttle. I forced my eyes to look around, but my body remained petrified. The trees around the clearing were all spattered with blood, and the remnants of other dead animals lay on the ground around the trees. It was as if the creature was painting. The roar of the engine echoed through the trees, and the cat was ground to mush. The blood spattering on me, and I jumped, shivering and whimpering, still, otherwise unable to move. While keeping the rest of its body still, the creature's eyes jerked to me. It was then that I realized the rhythmic, creaking sound of the branches was in sync with the creature's breathing. Slowly rising to its full height, the creature never stopped staring at me. It dropped the remaining bits and the throttle, and it looped its long fingers around my waist. It felt like tree branches were being wrapped around me. It opened its mouth wide as if it meant to swallow my head. So I held my arms up in my hands to protect myself. The flashlight blinded the creature, and it dropped me. I landed on my butt, but was on my feet in an instant. I ran as far as I could, back in the direction I had come, eventually breaking through the line of trees and stumbling back into the highway. I tried to catch my breath and quiet my racing heart as I scanned the trees for any sign of movement. I saw nothing, but I continued to hear the rhythmic creak of the tree branches, and it sent icy fingers down my spine. Unsure of what else to do, I started walking down the highway in the direction I would hope it would take me home. After a few minutes of walking, a pair of headlights appeared down the highway, and I sprinted towards them, waving my hands above my head to flag down the old Chevy. It screeched to a stop when it spotted me. I opened the passenger side door and hopped in, buckling my seatbelt. "Gee, mister, you got blood all over you. Everything okay?" the driver said in a slow, unsettling tone. "I'm fine, but there's some sort of monster in the forest. Take me to a police station," I replied, taking a deep breath every few words. The driver chuckled and continued driving. We sped past where I had been and took the next exit. Taking a right turn, the driver headed down the road. We passed a sign to the sheriff's office, but the driver kept going. "You sure you know where you're going?" I said, wondering if there was more than just the one station. "Oh, sure. I don't think you want to go to the police station. They'll just think you're crazy," the driver said, still talking in a slow, unsettling way. "You see, sounds like you've gone and had an encounter with Molly." My heart had started pounding. Now, I wouldn't say Molly's my friend, but me and her got somewhat of a mutual understanding, and I understand that she doesn't like it when people run from her. On the other hand, when Molly lets you go and you aren't scared a bit, I can testify to that. She opens your eyes to things you've never seen before, but when you run from Molly, you get scared. And you, sir, you're scared. I cocked back a fist, but before I could drive it forward, I felt a sharp and consistent pain. I looked down and saw the stun gun for a second before slipping out of consciousness.
Something's going on with me. I feel absolutely horrible, and I think I'm dying, or I don't know, something. My body feels like it's breaking, and the inside of me feels so hot. feel like my organs are cooking inside of me. It started when I woke up yesterday, and imagine this. My ass was looking down at my bed. At first I thought I'd partied a little too hard again the night before, and I was still coming out of a wild trip. But when I looked down, or I guess up, at my feet, there I saw the ceiling fan right by my feet. When I reached out to touch the light, I retracted from the sting of the bulb's heat. This was real. I was actually hanging on my freaking ceiling. I reached out down to my bed, expecting to fall down and faceplant into the bed. Instead, I stuck to the ceiling like a lizard by my feet. I tried pulling my leg from the ceiling, but it was no good. I couldn't move. What the I was cut off when I heard someone knocking on the door. "Hey, package for a Mr. Porter?" shouted a voice from outside the front door. The guy sounded young. I started frantically trying to jerk my legs from the ceiling. 1 minute, I shouted. No matter how hard I pulled and jerked, my legs were not budging. Shit. Can you just leave it on the porch? I kinda need a signature. Crap, I thought, still trying to pry myself off of the ceiling. Okay, well, give me a minute. I'm still naked. After about 10 more minutes of this, I finally managed to actually get one of my legs free. Soon after, the other came loose and I fell, face planting on the ground. I got up and answered the door, dazed, to see this kid, maybe early 20s, in a FedEx uniform. "Are you, Porter?" Yeah, that's me." "Okay, if you could just sign here." My head was aching and I felt dizzy, which made my handwriting sloppy as hell. Still, he took it and handed me the package. Thanks. You okay, sir?" "Sure," I replied before shutting the door in his face. I walked into the kitchen and was setting the package on the counter when I noticed that my hands were now stuck to the box. The fuck? Just like before, no matter how hard I tried to pull my hands apart, I couldn't separate them from the box. It was like someone went and welded my hands to the actual box. Eventually, my hands began sweating, causing them to unstick from the box, and I had my hands again. I was feeling the onset of a headache, causing the room to spin. My head felt hot, and I could feel my stomach churning with vertigo. I almost ended up falling out when I stumbled back into my bed. I was out like a busted light bulb before my head hit the pillow. I was out cold, and I felt like I'd slept for the rest of the day. When I woke up, though, I found that I'd only been asleep for a couple of hours. My stomach felt even worse than before, churning and twisting like someone was taking a whisk to my insides. When I tried to get up to bolt to the bathroom, though, you guessed it, I was stuck to the bed. I couldn't get free, and feeling as horrible as I did, I couldn't even fidget myself free. I ended up puking over the side of the bed. It burned all the way up from my stomach. It was like I was throwing up shards of glass. I immediately started panicking, though, when I saw that it was blood I was puking up. Or at least, what I thought was blood at first. It looked a lot thinner than blood, like red Kool-Aid almost. And then I heard it start to sizzle and steam, with the smell of sulfur coming up from it in the floor. When I looked down at it, I saw that it was eating through the floor. My heart started racing. What the hell is going on? What is this? Some kind of acid? I just puked acid? Despite the utter panic running through me at 1,000 miles a second, I was too weak to move. That, and again, I was stuck to the fucking bed. Eventually, I just blacked out again from sheer nausea. When I woke up, this time about 5 hours later, being now almost 9:30 p.m., I saw that I wasn't on the bed anymore. Take a wild guess where I did wake up. That's right, the ceiling. I was upside down, attached to the ceiling by my hands and knees. I was about to start trying to jerk myself free again when something even more freaky happened. A fly was buzzing around and landed in front of where I was stuck. When I looked at it, I could see it in clear detail. I could almost count every little strand of hair on its body, as well as see every little crevice of its skin. It was weird, but it's what happened next that freaks me the hell out. Now, normally, I'm not a fan of insects, of any kind. I'm the type of person that can't usually stand the sight of bugs without immediately trying to get rid of them. But this was different. This time I wasn't disgusted at all. Actually, it was the complete opposite. For whatever reason, like something animalistic inside of me was taking control of my thoughts. I thought of how the fly tasted. Yes, I said it. I wanted to eat the fucking fly. I don't know why, I just did. It just stood there in front of me for a moment, twitching as it stared at me. Before it could try and take flight again, I shot out my arm with a level of reflex that I swear wasn't even humanly possible, and snagged the fly between my index finger and thumb. For just a brief instant, I just held it like this, watching it intently as it feebly tried to wriggle out from between my fingers. With that same preternatural reflex that seized it in the first place, I popped it into my mouth and began chewing. In the interest of keeping what little of my stomach I might still have inside of me, I won't describe how it tasted. All I'll say, though, is that I actually enjoyed it, savoring it even, like it was a piece of steak or something. It's disgusting, but I can't help it. It was delicious. Regardless, only a second or two after doing this, my stomach started burning again, and I turned and I vomited that red stuff into the floor below me. Just like before, it started eating through the floor, almost on contact. I felt extremely weak again, but I tried pulling myself off the ceiling anyway. This time, it was actually a lot easier to unstick myself, and I came crashing down to the floor once again. For a while, I just laid there, confused, scared, disgusted, and feeling sicker than I ever thought possible. When I eventually did try to pick myself up again, I was stuck to the floor. Now this was pissing me off as much as it was freaking me out. What in the name of fucking God was going on? What's happening to me? Again, this only took about a minute or so before I was free again. When I looked at the ground, however, my heart stopped. There, where I was laying only a minute ago, was now a pelt of skin where my hands were. I looked at my palms to see that the insides of them were now exposed. What's worse, though, is that the insides of my palms were green and scaly, or reptilian looking. And that's when I screamed. Why the fuck do I have scales inside of my hands? What the fuck is going on with me? I frantically grabbed my phone and began dialing 911. I was waiting for the call to connect when I started feeling woozy again. The last thing I heard was a woman's voice on the other end saying, 911, what is the nature of your emergency? Before everything went dark again. This time, I was out for a lot longer. When I woke up this time, it was early this morning. I was perched claw formed on the branch of the large tree in my neighbor's front yard. By now, confused, didn't begin to describe what I was feeling in that moment. Now, aside from racking my head on what the hell was happening to my body, I was completely lost on how I kept up ending in strange places every time I blacked out. I slowly started making my way down the branch when I looked over to see my neighbor staring at me from his porch. "What the hell are you doing?" he shouted. "Oh, my son, see, he accidentally launched his frisbee in the tree and I had to get it down." Surprisingly, he actually seemed to buy that poor excuse of a lie. For one thing, I don't have a son. I don't even have a girlfriend, for Christ's sakes. And second, I've never been good with poker faces either. Still, he just rolled his eyes and went back inside. After scurrying down the tree, all like I was Spider-Man, I quickly ran back into my house and locked the door. Out of paranoia, I went through the house and locked all the windows as well. I didn't know what was going on, but I was not about to have that happen again. At least now, if I blacked out again, I'd still be in my house. No one else would see what's happening to me. I started trying to think back to the night before at the party. I remembered popping a few mollies my buddy, Ronnie, smuggled, and not much else. You've got to try this shit, man. And things sort of blurred together after that. You know how that goes, right? One minute you're on solid ground, the next you're soaring through the rainbows in space, and apparently you wake up on the damn ceiling. At one point in all of that, I remember going down and dirty with this one chick whose face was green and scaly with slitted yellow eyes. Of course, I was so far out of my mind that she could have looked like a chimpanzee, and I'd have still done her. In other words, I didn't think anything of it, just like I didn't think anything of it when she started biting me. I faintly remember feeling something inside me changing, twisting, like I was melting from the inside. After that, I went dark, and well, you know. Thinking about that now, though, with what's happened, I'm starting to get a real bad feeling it wasn't just the drugs that night. Who, or maybe I should say what, this girl was, or what she wanted from me, I don't know. But I do know this. Something seriously weird is going on with me. It was just 2.5 hours ago that I'd blacked out again. When I woke up, I felt worse than ever, and I was stuck facing downward on the wall. My skin felt like it was on fire, and I could see scraps of it peeling away, dangling from my arms and exposing green, scaly skin underneath. I wanted to scream, but when I opened my mouth, my stomach burned, and I spewed the red acid all over the floor. It took 20 minutes to pry myself off of the wall, and this time, almost my entire right arm was essentially degloved, revealing a long, green, gangly lizard limb with gnarled, misshapen claws at the end of it. I looked in the mirror just ahead of me at the end of the hall to see that my eyes were now yellow and slitted, just like the chick from the party. Right now, more of my skin is blistering and peeling away, shedding like a lizard. I need help. Please, somebody, anybody. I need help. How do I fix this? I don't want to be a fucking lizard. I'm scared. It hurts so much. I'm feeling woozy again. Oh God, what's gonna happen this time? Please, somebody, help me.